The palace walls in Copenhagen are thick with history. Echoes of monarchs past linger in its grand corridors, but today, those echoes are being drowned out by a truth so loud, so emotional, and so unexpected, it has left an entire nation gasping in disbelief. King Frederik X of Denmark and Queen Mary, the beloved and steadfast figures at the heart of the Danish monarchy, have made a decision that has stunned royal watchers and shaken the very foundation of their family. What was once whispered behind closed doors is now undeniable. The truth can no longer be hidden. The Danish royal family is at a crossroads, and the decision that's been made has thrust them into the international spotlight in a way few ever imagined. This is not just about protocol or tradition. This is about people. It's about emotion. It's about a family trying to hold itself together under the weight of centuries-old expectations and the relentless glare of the public eye. The royal image has always been one of unity, grace, and resilience, but behind the glittering facade, reality has a much different texture. It's raw, it's vulnerable, and it's now painfully visible. King Frederik and Queen Mary, often admired as the epitome of modern royalty, balancing duty with dignity, are facing challenges so profound, they have forced a dramatic and irreversible decision. It began quietly, almost invisibly. Subtle shifts in public appearances. Carefully staged smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. Royal engagements attended solo, a soft distancing that only the most perceptive observers noticed, until it became impossible to ignore. Queen Mary, once ever present at the king's side, started missing from major events. King Frederik, who ascended the throne with great public support, began to appear more reserved, almost burdened. And then, like a long simmering volcano, the reality erupted. The decision was made. Sources close to the royal household revealed that King Frederik and Queen Mary, after months of private discussion, emotional tension, and deep introspection, have decided to significantly restructure their family dynamic. While the palace has avoided using the word separation, the signs are clear. The Queen will be spending an increasing amount of time in her native Australia, focusing on projects deeply personal to her. Meanwhile, King Frederik will remain in Denmark, assuming a more solo-oriented royal role, managing state affairs, ceremonial duties, and overseeing the crown's transition as their eldest children, Prince Christian and Princess Isabella, prepare to take on greater responsibilities. This isn't the first time the Danish royals have been forced to confront the painful clash between duty and personal happiness. The monarchy has long been held together by an unspoken pact of endurance. But this moment is different. It is not simply about the role of a king or queen, it is about the sacrifices they are no longer willing to make. Queen Mary, known for her poised elegance and fierce commitment to charitable causes, has reportedly struggled with the pressures of life inside the royal fishbowl. Friends say she longs for a return to the roots of her identity, a life not constantly choreographed by cameras, protocol, or royal tradition. Her bond with Australia remains strong, and sources claim that time spent there has been deeply healing, even liberating. For King Frederik, the weight of the crown appears to be heavier than anyone imagined. Long before his accession, he was vocal about the constraints of royal life. As a young prince, he rebelled, often emotionally, against the predetermined path set before him. Becoming king was a duty he accepted, not necessarily one he desired. And now, faced with the internal rift within his family, the pressure has intensified. Insiders report that he has become more introspective, withdrawn even, questioning not only his role but the cost it demands from those he loves most. Their children, particularly Princess Isabella, who recently celebrated her 18th birthday, are caught in the middle of this profound shift. The princess, now legally an adult, is stepping into a royal role with eyes wide open. But what kind of monarchy will she inherit? One built on appearances, or one rooted in honesty and personal truth? Prince Christian, next in line to the throne, remains stoic in public, but those close to him speak of a young man deeply affected by the quiet unraveling within his family. The new generation of royals is learning quickly that duty and sacrifice go hand in hand, but they're also discovering where the limits must be drawn. Despite the palace's efforts to manage the narrative, the public has been quick to react. Across Denmark and beyond, there has been an outpouring of mixed emotions. Some express deep empathy, admiring the couple's courage to choose what feels right over what appears right. Others mourn the image of the perfect royal couple they once admired, now tarnished by the reality of emotional distance. But perhaps most striking is the widespread sense that the monarchy itself is at a pivotal moment, one that could either lead to greater authenticity or further disillusionment. Behind the gilded walls of Amalienburg Palace, advisors are reportedly working around the clock to reshape the royal calendar. Appearances are being recalibrated. Public engagements are being split between King Frederik and senior royal members. Queen Mary's initiatives, especially her work on domestic violence awareness and youth empowerment, will continue, but under her personal foundation, potentially detached from direct royal affiliation. In Australia, preparations are underway to facilitate her semi-permanent presence, with a focus on international advocacy rather than royal protocol. It is important to understand that this decision did not arise from scandal or betrayal. There are no reports of infidelity, no explosive arguments caught on camera. Instead, it is the culmination of years of emotional compromise, subtle isolation, and personal growth pulling in different directions. The king and queen remain united in purpose when it comes to their children and their duty to the crown. But they are no longer pretending that everything is perfect. In this honesty, there is both heartbreak and freedom. Royal biographers are already calling this one of the most significant emotional shifts in modern monarchy. Comparisons are being drawn to the late Queen Margrethe's abdication, which was herself an act of personal truth, stepping aside not due to illness, but because she no longer felt she could give her all. In a similar spirit, Frederik and Mary's decision is being framed not as a weakness, but as a necessary realignment of priorities. Queen Mary's departure, even if partial, represents something monumental. She was the symbol of a modern fairy tale, a commoner turned crown princess, navigating culture, language, and expectations with grace. Her presence brought a global appeal to the Danish monarchy. Her fashion choices, speeches, and charitable endeavors made her one of the most respected royals in Europe. To see her slowly step away from the limelight is both a shock and a sobering reminder that behind every tiara is a human being who longs for peace. King Frederik's challenge now is to steer the monarchy through this era of transition while preserving public trust. His leadership will be tested like never before. He must balance the emotional upheaval within his family with the unwavering expectations of the Danish people. He must embody stability in a time of change, clarity in a time of emotional fog. Whether he can rise to this challenge remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the eyes of the world are now firmly fixed on Denmark. This royal revelation will reshape not just the public's perception of the Danish royal family, but potentially the very structure of monarchies across Europe. It opens the door to a broader conversation about what we expect from royalty in the 21st century. Do we demand perfection at the cost of personal well-being? Or can we allow our royal families to be human, flawed, and brave enough to make choices that reflect who they really are? As Queen Mary boards flights to Australia and King Frederik stands alone at royal engagements, a new chapter begins, not just for them, but for everyone who has followed their journey. This is not the end of a fairy tale. It's the beginning of a truth-telling, a courageous rewriting of what royalty means in the modern world. Their decision may have shocked many, but perhaps in time, it will be remembered as one of the most honest acts ever made from a royal throne. One cannot ignore the emotional magnitude this moment carries, not just for the monarchy, but for the people of Denmark who have long held their royals close to heart. The Danish monarchy, often seen as the most down-to-earth and relatable among Europe's reigning houses, has always prided itself on a sense of modesty and public service. King Frederik and Queen Mary embodied that philosophy. Their love story, blossoming from the 2000 Sydney Olympics to the corridors of Amalienburg Palace, became a symbol of hope, that love could cross oceans, cultures, and centuries of royal tradition. But what happens when the very couple who inspired millions must confront the painful reality that love alone isn't always enough to hold the crown's weight? Insiders from the court describe the decision-making process as deliberate, emotional, and deeply complex. This wasn't an impulsive act but a result of long conversations that stretched into the early hours of the morning. The couple sought advice from senior courtiers, royal advisors, and even members of other European royal families who have faced their own challenges. Queen Mary reportedly consulted close confidants in Australia, leaning on her family for strength and clarity. King Frederik, ever the introspective ruler, turned inward, journaling, seeking counsel from childhood friends, and even quietly visiting locations around Denmark that held personal meaning to him. These private reflections, paired with public duty, culminated in a choice neither made lightly, but both now stand by. The public's reaction has ranged from disbelief to deep admiration. In Copenhagen's city center, flowers and handwritten notes have been placed outside Amalienborg Palace, some messages filled with sorrow, others with support. "We love you, Mary," one note read, "do what brings you peace." Social media has exploded with tributes, throwback photos, and hashtags like #StandByMary and #Strength to Frederik. While the couple hasn't publicly spoken in depth about the decision, their silence has been louder than any statement, because the change is already happening before the world's eyes. Behind the scenes, royal staff are grappling with a logistical nightmare. Coordinating events with a split royal presence, adjusting security details to cover Queen Mary's extended stays in Australia, and managing the emotional well-being of their teenage children who, though born into privilege, are navigating deeply personal grief in the public eye. Princess Isabella, already under scrutiny after her recent debut as an adult royal, now finds herself thrust into a much larger spotlight. Observers have noted a more somber demeanor in her recent appearances. Meanwhile, Prince Christian, heir to the throne, is being groomed with a new intensity, as King Frederik quietly begins preparing him for the complex road ahead. What makes this transition even more delicate is the deeply personal nature of the family's bond with the Danish public. Unlike some royal families known for stoicism and formality, the Danish royals have always embraced accessibility. It's not uncommon to see King Frederik jogging through city parks or Queen Mary engaging with schoolchildren without heavy security. That closeness has made this revelation all the more shocking, because it feels personal. It feels like a friend confessing a private truth. And it leaves the public not just observing, but emotionally participating in the royal family's transformation. Internationally, royal experts are watching closely. Comparisons are being made to other modern royal shifts, such as King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain, who have also faced emotional family struggles, and even the dramatic evolution of the British royal family in the wake of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's departure. But what sets Denmark apart is the quiet dignity with which this change is unfolding. There are no explosive interviews, no scandalous revelations, just a quiet, painful truth emerging through actions rather than headlines. That restraint, some say, may be the monarchy's greatest strength in preserving its dignity amidst change. And yet, the question remains, what happens next? Will Queen Mary return to Denmark full-time? Or will she become something of a global royal ambassador, continuing her advocacy while remaining mostly independent? What role will she play in major state events, like royal anniversaries, national ceremonies, or state banquets? Will we see her standing beside King Frederik as they once did, united in cause if not always in presence? Or will she begin charting a new path entirely, one less bound by tradition and more aligned with her personal values? Then there is King Frederik's own evolution. Now more than ever, his reign is being tested, not by war or scandal, but by emotional resilience. His people are watching to see how he leads with authenticity in a time of vulnerability. Will he become more transparent with the public? Will he continue the legacy of his mother, Queen Margrethe, who reigned with quiet strength and cultural engagement? Or will he forge a new identity as a modern monarch, one who doesn't just rule with authority, but with open emotion and human imperfection? The impact of this moment may ripple far beyond Denmark's borders. Monarchies across Europe are quietly taking note. In an era where public trust is fragile and loyalty is no longer a given, royal families must walk a careful line. Appear too detached, and you risk irrelevance. Show too much humanity, and the pedestal begins to crack. The decision by King Frederik and Queen Mary to prioritize personal truth, even if it means appearing less united, may ultimately be the blueprint for the future of royalty, one that chooses emotional honesty over curated perfection. Already, voices within Denmark's younger generation are applauding the royal couple's courage. Many young Danes have taken to TikTok and Instagram to express support, posting messages like, "They're showing us that love and responsibility can coexist without losing yourself." This emotional intelligence resonates with a generation tired of performative tradition. For them, King Frederik and Queen Mary's choice isn't a fall from grace, it's a rise into authenticity. Still, change is never easy. There will be growing pains. There will be criticism. There will be headlines from foreign tabloids twisting the narrative, painting the couple as divided or hinting at scandal where none exists. But what will endure is the example they are setting, for their children, their country, and the world. That sometimes, even kings and queens must pause, reflect, and ask, what do we need to live fully, not just serve faithfully? This story isn't over. In fact, it's only beginning. And the next chapters may be some of the most compelling yet. The world is watching not to judge, but to understand. Because in the end, it's not just a royal drama, it's a deeply human story about choices, family, identity, and the quiet bravery it takes to change the narrative. Shocking as it may seem today, perhaps years from now, history will look back at this moment as the day the Danish monarchy took a bold step into the future, by embracing the very vulnerability that so many once feared would break it. And now, as Denmark stands at this emotional crossroad, we must ask, can the royal family's quiet act of courage become the beginning of a more compassionate and truthful era for monarchies around the world? And now we turn to you. What do you think this emotional royal shift means for the future of Denmark's monarchy? Could this mark the start of a more transparent era, or the slow unraveling of centuries-old tradition?